Good afternoon. The Reserve Bank has kept interest rates on hold in a decision announced this afternoon. Tim Lester joins me now live from Canberra. Tim, the Reserve is warning stubbornly high inflation may force future rises.
Yes, Anne. In fact, the Reserve today has said that inflation is heading back to the range where it needs to be, but it is only going to get there very slowly. As the Reserve announced its hold decision today, sparks were flying over rates in federal parliament.
The question for this Leader of the Opposition, why did he make this man the Shadow Treasurer?
Shadow Treasurer Tim Wilson booted.
The member for Goldstein will leave the chamber.
After an exchange with Prime Minister Albanese. Minutes earlier, the Reserve Bank announced it is holding the cash rate at 4.35%.
This will come as a relief to Australians with a mortgage. It is a welcome decision at a time of heightened uncertainty in the world.
The Albanese government's plan has continued to be to stoke inflation, to tax inflation, to then spend inflation.
In its statement on monetary policy, the board says inflation remains too high and forecasts it won't be back in the middle of the bank's 2 to 3% target until late next year.
The board will raise interest rates further if that is what is required to bring inflation down in a timely way.
Inflation has now moderated for 3 months in a row, but it is still higher than we'd like. There's still a lot of uncertainty going forward.
And that means for Australia's 3 million mortgage holders, it's likely that interest rate cuts are a distant prospect at best. Economists at the 4 big banks are still forecasting cuts, but not before mid-next year. Anne?
Tim Lester with the very latest from Canberra. Thank you very much, Tim. Before the barbs were traded in question time, there was a moment of unity in federal parliament to reflect on 2 extraordinary Australians. Back-to-back moments of silence were held for late cancer researcher Professor Richard Scolyer and broadcaster and Senator Derryn Hinch. Parliament pausing to rise and pay their respects. The brother of the first witness in the Alan Jones trial has told how the former talkback king used to buy him lavish gifts, including an engagement ring for his wife. He also detailed when his brother first told him about the allegations involving Jones. Chris Reason has the details.
Good afternoon. Well, after a week of extraordinary allegations from the witness codenamed Jay, today in court, his brother recalling the explosive claims made about Alan Jones. The 85-year-old arrived in court today for the second week of a trial expected to run for months. His solicitor, Chris Murphy, not keen on questions. His client is charged with 22 sex crimes alleged by 6 complainants over 17 years. Jones denies them all. Fronting court for the first time, the brother of then-athlete, complainant Jay, who recalled their multiple meetings with Alan Jones and the time the former 2GB radio giant offered some extraordinary generosity. "I'd like to help you out with the gift of a ring for your engagement," he said. The nation's then wealthiest media star went further, buying him a Villeroy embossed dinner set for his wedding a year later. This was on top of the car and phone and payments he'd given his brother. Complainant Jay told the court last week that at Jones's lavish Fitzroy Falls estate, Jones and he wore bathrobes before Jones allegedly assaulted him, telling his brother 20 years later, "The hardest thing I've ever had to tell you. You've probably seen the news. I'm one of the people who've come forward." The brother asked, "How bad?" He said, "Nothing too bad. He never tried to me or anything like that. He would grab me on the and tried to kiss me. The hugs would go for longer." Mr Jones's defence was quick to point out that some of what the brother said today, though, was not made in his original police statement some 18 months ago. Back to you.
Australia's war on illegal tobacco has gone next level with nationwide raids on one of the country's biggest petrol chains. Australian Border Force has inspected more than 100 sites operating under the Metro Fuel banner as part of its crackdown on black market cigarettes and vapes. Clementine Cuneo has more.
Good afternoon. These raids began about 10 this morning at Metro petrol stations right across Sydney. The raids were part of a major investigation into the alleged supply and distribution of illegal tobacco by federal law enforcement agencies. 100 stores Australia-wide were raided by Border Force officials in coordinated warrants, spanning Victoria, the ACT, Western Australia, Queensland and South Australia.
The intelligence we have suggests that the sale of illicit tobacco through the targeted service stations is something that is organised, sophisticated and resilient. The illicit tobacco trade has been shown to fuel violence in the community, and we have seen organised crime groups use the sales of illicit tobacco to fund further criminal activity. That's why it is vital that law enforcement and regulatory agencies work together to combat this illegal trade.
No Metro employees are accused of any wrongdoing, Metro Petroleum issuing a statement saying it was fully cooperating with the raids and supported any action taken against anyone involved in the distribution of illicit tobacco. We'll have more on this developing story in our bulletin tonight at 6.
2 teenagers are in police custody and a third person is on the run after bullets were fired into a home at Eagle Vale in Campbelltown, triggering a chase. The pursuit ended in a crash which led to the arrest of 2 boys. Emily Francis has the details.
Good afternoon. Well, right now, 2 boys are in police custody. Their ages just 15 and 17. And early stages of this investigation suggest a third person involved in this public place shooting is unaccounted for. Now, this is a developing investigation, but what we know so far is that this house in Eagle Vale, southwest Sydney, was shot at several times just before 2 a.m. Those people involved fled in a stolen car. Police caught up to them around a kilometre away in nearby Raby, where the car crashed into a tree. Now, the people inside then fled but didn't get far. Police arrested one of those boys in a nearby backyard. The 17-year-old seen in this CCTV walking casually away from the scene, but he was arrested a short distance away. Crime scenes have been set up both at the crash site and back here at Eagle Vale, where this house has been targeted now for a third time. Take a listen at what investigators had to say about that.
The house is known to police, most recently of last weekend in relation to a firebombing. So this incident is a targeted incident. The people who live at the house are assisting police with all of our inquiries.
This latest attack is the second in just the space of a week, that first attack dating back to May. Now, at this stage, police don't know what the motive is, but that is forming a key line of inquiry.
Sydney's new Town Hall Square is a step closer, with images released of what the plaza will look like. Lord Mayor Clover Moore says it will have the grandeur of European squares, but with Australian charm. Several buildings, including Woolworths opposite the Town Hall, will be demolished.
When those buildings are removed, people are then going to be able to have a really good view of the very beautiful heritage buildings.
Town Hall Square is expected to be completed in 5 years. Today is Census Day, with every Australian expected to fill out their details by this evening. The 2026 census will provide data for planning and government services for years to come, as Paul Caddock reports.
Good afternoon. It is the nation's big search for answers about the nation. And while tonight is officially the night, the census is already well underway.
Nearly 11 million households receiving their letter with a code and instructions to complete the more than 65 questions, either on paper or online, covering everything from age to background to work, income, education, health, faith, sexuality, creating a snapshot to better understand who we are and help guide future services.
Have you filled it out as yet?
I did yesterday evening.
Okay, how did you find it?
It was good. I mean, it helps, right? So then, we get to know, how many people are in Australia and, what people do.
Important, to help government know, how many people that need help, need support.
Many already completing it online.
We're sitting at around 5 million households responding, which is just fantastic. For some areas across the country where there's less reliable address information, we have been dropping off paper census forms.
The 5-yearly questionnaire reaching everywhere from ski resorts to cruise ships. For anyone in Australia tonight, it is compulsory.
People need to understand that we will come and follow up if they haven't participated. If they refuse to participate, there's a fine of around $364 a day.
After tonight, the number crunching begins in earnest, with the first results from the census expected in June next year.